This episode of the New Hampshire Business Show is sponsored by Everlasting Capital. If you're a small business and you need money and a bank won't give it to you, Everlasting Capital is here to help. In as quickly as a couple of days, you can have the funding your business needs for new equipment or anything else you need the capital for. So submit your application today and see how they can help you out. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the New Hampshire Business Show. My name is Chris Pastrana, and today we're here with Adam Carace of Pest-End Inc. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So let's jump into this. What is it that you do? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my family started Pest-End Exterminators, or Pest-End Inc. It was in 1977.
All right.
So we've been in business for a little while.
Yeah.
We're a full-service pest control company, so we take care of everything from ants, bees, or wasp yellow jackets, squirrels, any type of wildlife, bed bugs, and the big thing coming up right now is tick and mosquito.
Yeah.
So we kind of take care of anything that you have a problem with, while keeping your family and pets and everything in mind to make sure everyone's safe on that aspect as well.
Yeah. So I think everyone generally knows kind of exterminators, that type of stuff. So tell us a little bit about your company, because you said you've been in business since 73?
77.
77. So it's a pretty good length of time there.
Yeah, so actually in 1977, a gentleman by the name of David Hazelwood started Pest-End Exterminating. And in 1986, my dad was actually in real estate.
Okay.
And the owner of Pest-End called him to sell his house. And they started talking, and he also said he wanted to sell his business.
Nice.
And my dad was 21 at the point, had no idea about pest control, had no experience at all, and said, I'll buy it. And at that point, I think it was 3 employees. Fast forward a little bit to today, we have 45 full-time employees. Oh, wow. We service most of New England at this point. And now I'm second generation, so my parents are still involved, but I'm the CEO at the company.
Nice.
And we have my sister's also involved, my wife's involved, and then obviously we have other people that aren't family, but we try and run it as a tight-knit family business, which I think is a little bit different than some of the other pest control companies out there.
Yeah.
You call and you can talk to an owner. You're not getting some national company, which sometimes can be a little difficult.
Yeah, that's a very interesting dynamic, because how is it working with family? Because it depends. A lot of companies, it's good. Some can be tricky.
It has its moments. It has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
I always joke and say every family dinner is a family meeting.
Yeah.
So, you kind of live it 24/7, which, again, is okay for me because I really enjoy what I'm doing. But especially where my wife is also in the business.
Yeah.
We wake up and, we're talking about it. There's been times where stuff's going on, and I'll wake up at 3 in the morning to my wife sitting on her phone because there's some type of an emergency. And, so it adds that whole nother dynamic into it.
Yeah.
On the benefit, I get to spend a lot of time with my wife, which I really like. The same thing, I see my family probably a lot more than most people do. And again, that has its ups and downs, but I think for the most part, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
so I
awesome.
like it.
That's pretty cool. So let's talk about pest control a little bit here, because you mentioned a lot of the stuff you typically see. New England is an odd dynamic because it's an old place. It's not like brand new construction. You're not in the middle of the city. What's it like working pest control out here, where it's essentially at the starting of the country?
So a lot of times, similar to what you said, you'll deal with these really old houses. So you'll have powder post beetles, which actually are in the wood already, and they end up emerging. So if you go into a basement and you see your sills, you'll see these little oval-shaped holes. That's powder post beetles emerging from there. They can destroy the wood itself, so it can be treated and made sure it's okay, but you're not really dealing with those in a lot of other places because of how wood is treated now during new construction.
Yeah.
So that does make a difference. And then the same thing when you get closer to the city down into Boston, those buildings are very old. When you're dealing with either rodents or even roaches, there's all crawl spaces underneath them, which are pretty much impossible to get to. They're not in great conditions, these buildings, because they're hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
And so you have that side to it. There's just a lot of entry points where whether it's a rat or something can make its way back in. So there's a lot of difficulty in that side.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, sometimes businesses get a bad name because something is seen, and really they can try as hard as they want to and hire us or another company and do what they're supposed to. It's just really hard to eliminate those problems in those type of settings.
Yeah, because you hear it all the time, especially around here. A lot of the Chinese restaurants have issues with this type of stuff.
I think it's a lot of restaurants in general just have issues with cleanliness and with insects and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I hear it a lot.
Yeah, and cleanliness is a huge issue.
Yeah.
And it's straight across the board. We see things that most people don't.
Yeah.
And if you knew the conditions of a lot of places, you'd be surprised. Our immune systems are really good, in my opinion. But, what you might think is unacceptable, a lot of times it's just the norm. And that's not to say anything bad about any restaurants. It's hard. You're cooking so much food at such a high volume that you got to get through it. So it's one of the things we work with them too on. All right, let's try and get this part cleaner. Let's scrub this area. So pest control is not just killing the bugs anymore. It's going in and trying to make places cleanly or bringing up the cleanliness of an area. So there's other factors into it. There's a whole health aspect in the pest control side that we deal with now as well.
Yeah.
Which was different from 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you walked in and you just sprayed baseboards at every place, no matter what they had or didn't have. You just went in and sprayed. You don't do that anymore. They don't want you putting chemicals out and all that stuff, which is understandable. So a lot of it's inspecting, being proactive, making sure that everything's where it should be, which should eliminate a lot of the pests right off the bat.
Yeah, because I had a mechanic on the show years ago, and we kind of got into a very similar field to what we're talking about right now. Not pest control, but when people think about mechanics, they think, it's just some dude, unintelligent, turning wrenches, but cars have become so computerized, and you actually have to be fairly intelligent with a lot of really interesting equipment to be able to work with it. So it kind of sounds like we're kind of in that realm where it's not like it was. Like you said, you can't just walk in and, I'm just going to douse this place in, chemicals and kill everything. There's much more to it. You have to have a wider grasp of pest control to be able to do that type of stuff. So I'm kind of what I gathered from that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And especially, we're in multiple states, you have to have a license in each state. And in some states, you have it for each specific category. So there's a lot of figuring out, everyone just says, oh, it's a roach. Well, there's 10 different types. And they all react differently and need to be treated differently. And the same thing with ants. And when you get into rodents or wildlife, they're very smart. Yeah. It's not as simple as just putting a trap down and, we're going to catch it and everyone's good. If it was that easy, I wouldn't have a job. Yeah. So there's other factors that you look into it. And then, like I said, when you get into the whole health aspect of it, or there's certain communities now where there's no pesticide allowed to be used at all. So now that's a whole nother issue of, okay, well, you have a problem. How can we get rid of it? Yeah. Because it's an eco-friendly product, which is great, but they usually don't have the residual or the effects that your synthetic product will. So, it's all using it within reason. We have a lot of people that are very concerned about the products, but you can open up under your sink and everyone has pesticides under there, whether it's bleach or even hairspray. Yeah. It's just how it's used and using it the right way. So there's a lot of training that goes into making sure our products are mixed properly and applied properly, not over-applied. So it's a lot of training, and every year we have a certain amount of credits that we have to keep up with so we don't lose our license. So, they're very, the EPA watches us very closely, state level watches very, very closely to make sure nothing happens. And, for the most part, you never really hear any stories about people getting sick from a pest control company treating or things like that. So I think we do a pretty good job as an industry to make sure that everything's the way it should be.
Good. Pretty cool. So let's jump into, back into the pest thing. So you mentioned the beetles earlier. What's the most common thing you typically run into around here?
So it depends on the season. So right when the spring hits, which the past few years have been a little bit later than typically, but let's say around May, you're going to get a couple of things that will hit right away. Ants, a lot of people see the ants, so whether it's carpenter ants or the small pavement ants, you'll get those in the house, and termite swarming. So if you ever walk around your house and you see what looks like a cloud of hundreds of bugs flying, you have a termite swarm. They look very similar to ants, but they're completely different in terms of how they are treated and the damage that they can cause. Yeah. So those are the two biggest things, right in the spring. Then again, as you move more into it and kids start getting out of school and pools open, people are concerned about ticks and mosquitoes. They're, with whether it's West Nile or Lyme disease, that's become a very big thing. Yeah. So that's something that we also make sure that we treat with. And then I would say the other two things, especially around here, bed bugs. Bed bugs are huge for everyone. So I think the education has really helped. it's not as bad as it was 10 years ago because people just know about it more.
Yeah.
They know what to look for, which is good. But that's something that you got to be very, very careful about because they don't care how much money you make, what color your skin is. It doesn't matter. If you go away and you go somewhere that has bed bugs, they're going to latch on and you're going to bring them home. So I've told people I've been in, whether it's Section 8 housing or $3 million homes, they both can get them. So that's the biggest thing with bed bugs. And then lastly, in our area specifically, a lot of people have chickens. Chicken coops attract rats. Rats have become a very, very big problem in the past 2 years. There's places where we've pulled 50, 60 rats out of someone's house. So, it's an intriguing job for us, but it's definitely an issue for the people dealing with it. We had a house a couple of years ago that we pulled, I think it was 67 rats out of, and it was a very elderly couple, and they had some other issues, but they were feeding the rats as their pets. Oh, God,
that's awful.
So they would literally have the rat come up, stand on its back legs, and the woman would hand it a cracker, and it would run away. And it got to the point where the health department got involved. I mean, there was droppings everywhere. It was not a good scene.
Yeah.
So that's an extreme case, but a lot of people are seeing it around the chicken coops, or if they have goats and ducks, they love those type of areas. It's very easy for them. So that's been a big thing that's happened as well.
Okay. Yeah, this is funny because I don't live in the city, but I live in Goshen, pretty close by, and I never run into any of these issues. So it's kind of amusing when I hear it because I'm like, wow, really? It's just pretty cool. I guess we're just cleaner than I thought.
Yeah, that's what it is, just kind of keeping track of your own stuff. A lot of times, even with the chicken coops, clean up the food as much as you can. I know it's not easy, but keep a clean area and watch for it. If you see a burrow or a hole in the ground, don't just ignore it, because it's a lot easier to eliminate the problem when it's 1 or 2 as opposed to 20.
Yeah. All right, cool. So on the flip side of that, what's the more rare things that you might see but probably won't that are just interesting?
So, fleas, we deal with fleas, but that's a small window. That's something that people get, and a lot of times that gets confused with bed bugs. So, if you're getting bites and it's just from the knees down, they're most likely fleas. And that's something with pets. Typically, you'll have them there. Mm-hmm. Then, there's well over 10,000 pests in this area. So we always get those, we call them occasional invaders, different types of random beetles that come in, or, stink bugs. That's another big thing. Yeah. Ladybugs, you don't really do anything about them. They're kind of a pain, but there's not much of a treatment that can be done for them. So you'll see those come in. But, we pretty much have our, 8 to 10 main pests that we're dealing with. And then again, on the wildlife side, now you're getting animals actually into the house.
Yeah.
So, whether it's a squirrel or bats that get into the house, those are things that, you got to be mindful of. And on our side, someone just calls and says, I hear a noise in the attic. Well, now we're going to play detective and figure out what it is and why they're making that noise. And then, we have our questions that we ask that we can usually figure it out. But.
Yeah. Ever get a coyote in the house?
Not in the house, but I will tell you we've had some places where we've had to do some work with coyotes because it's been at commercial accounts and the coyotes have started going aggressively towards the people.
Yeah.
So the workers don't feel comfortable, and that leads into a whole nother aspect too, because they can be pretty big, and it does not make people feel comfortable when they have them growling at them getting out of their car.
Yeah, that's funny. I hunt coyotes exclusively, and when you start talking about chicken coops, I'm like, oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Bring chickens, mice, or rats. I'm like, yeah, here they come.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. So as far as running your company, because you mentioned you had like 40-something employees?
By the beginning of the spring, we'll have 45 full-time employees.
Oh, pretty cool. Yeah, I think you mentioned that online the other day that you were just hired a few more. That's pretty good. What's it like running a company like that? Because most businesses that come on the show are either solo or they might have 1 or 2 people. But when I get companies that are much bigger, it's good to get that view because a lot of people want to get to that point.
I'm not gonna lie, it's tough.
Yeah.
I joke sometimes that I'm a glorified babysitter because you just have a lot of people that you're watching, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to. About 5 years ago, we only had 30 employees. So we've added 15, maybe a couple more than that over the past 5 years. So we've had to restructure even the way we've done things just to make sure everyone's where they should be and doing what they should be. For me, we have 45 employees, but I also have 45 families. That's how I look at it. So I like to make sure not only are my employees taken care of, but that their families are where they need to be. We stress that a lot too, where we have guys that have come from certain places and they were working 60, 70 hours a week. That's okay, but did you ever see your wife or your kids? No. And I put it that way because all of our on-road techs right now are all guys. There's not a lot of women that want to go out and kill bugs. We've tried, but there's just not a lot of them that want to do it. So it's always something new. I like the adventure. I like thinking of it. I started out killing the bugs, and now I don't do that often.
Yeah.
I just get called in on the bigger jobs, which is fun. But now it's just a whole different dynamic of making sure everyone's taken care of. We have the right amount of people hired, the insurances, the taxes, all of that stuff that play into it as well. And most of my training, even on that side, came from just living in it. I grew up in this business and saw it grow and saw it change into what it is today. And you slowly just pick up and add things, and I kind of look at it as an onion. There's just different layers to it. And that's something that I've worked hard on, and I also believe I'm never the smartest person in the room. People who have that mindset that they know everything, to me they're just destined to fail. You got to understand that you're always going to grow and always going to change. I'm very lucky that within my company I have multiple people that have been in this industry for over 20 years, and they've come from different companies and different areas, so there's a lot of people that I can rely on to help me do that.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing on my side, where I don't have to sit there and wait or figure it out on my own. I have people, whether it's my dad or some of our managers, that I can go to and say, hey, what do you think about this? And just that spitballing thing helps usually come up with the best resolution for that.
Good.
And then I just think the most difficult thing is hiring, finding the right people. The job market's very tough right now because unemployment's so low.
Yeah.
So you're either trying to find someone who already has a job, and a lot of times that means you got to pay them more because you're trying to pull them out from where they already are, or you're trying to find someone. We do a lot where we'll hire someone either out of high school or right out of college who has zero experience at all, and train them up and work them that way. We've had a lot of good success doing it that way. It's made it easier, and we can train them the way we want it, because as much as pest control is the same, each company is a little different.
Yeah.
So, instead of having to train them out of the habits they have from another place, we can just start clean and bring them in our way.
Yeah, pretty cool. So, for people that want to learn more about you and your company, how do they get a hold of you?
So we have a website, Pest-End Inc.com. They can definitely go there. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. So they can find us on either of those areas. We're open from, as of right now, 8 to 5 starting. March 1st, we'll be open 7 to 6, Monday through Friday. And then we're open every Saturday from 8:30 to 12. If they have questions, we're always there. They can call and ask us. We have people mail us bugs to say, what is this? In today's world, it's a little bit easier to say take a picture and send it to us, but they still will get squished bugs in the mail asking if they can get back to us. So we have those things.
That's awesome.
We also have an office in Pest-End, New Hampshire, and one in Methuen, Massachusetts. Stop by. We have a store there where you can buy general use stuff. Or, again, if you have a pest that you're not sure of or questions, you're more than welcome to come in and ask us anything that you need.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. This has been pretty cool.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it.
Really. Thank you guys so much for reaching out. Don't mail them bugs. That's weird. But if you need help with pest control, definitely reach out, and I'll talk to you next time.
Want more New Hampshire Business Show? Find us at iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and www.nhbusinessshow.com.